Welcome to the 22nd Annual Beat the Odds Awards Celebration, brought to you by presenting sponsor HEB, scholarship underwriters Tina Bentsen, and the Esther Friedman Family Foundation, Morton Cohn, Ann and J. Kent Friedman, visionary voices Regina Rogers and Tina Bentsen, education advocates Merrick Family Foundation, Friedman Family Foundation, UTMB Health, Melanie Gray and Mark Warrow, Greg and Brooke Caudell, firm believers Community Health Choice Harris Health, Jeffrey Cohen and Catherine M. Case, staunch supporters Jim Postal, Joyce Ahern, Lois F. Stark, Kate and Kevin Lacey. Please welcome Executive Director of Children's Defense Fund Texas, Patrick Brissett.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Patrick Brissett, Executive Director of the Texas Office of the Children's Defense Fund. We are excited to connect with you all virtually to bring you this fresh infusion of hope. I know you will find the stories of our Beat the Odds honorees uplifting, and I'm so proud to share how CDF-Texas has beaten great odds this challenging year as we continue to serve the children and families we center in our work. As usual, this event has been a team effort, and it would not have been possible without the support from our sponsors, whose names you saw a moment ago. Special thanks to HEB, our presenting sponsor for 8 years running and a longtime partner. HEB has also made it possible for us to honor 5 very impressive students as runners-up for this award, so their generosity extends well beyond the honorees you'll meet today. We are grateful for their continued support. Now let's talk about odds. The Children's Defense Fund Leave No Child Behind mission is to ensure every child a healthy start, a head start, a fair start, a safe start, and a moral start in life, and successful passage to adulthood with the help of caring families and communities. From our foundation and at our core, CDF fights for just systems that provide equal access and opportunity to children and families of all ethnic, racial, and social economic backgrounds. We cannot achieve justice with systems that leave some communities out by design. So in Texas, our work is focused on ensuring that marginalized children get access to health care, that immigrant children are treated humanely, and young people are given tools and supports to advocate for themselves and others. In addition to the young people we are celebrating today, I want to recognize our amazing staff who kept our important work going strong, even in a global pandemic. They beat the odds too. But more on this shortly. First, let's meet our first honoree and future advocate, Mara Nizami, and be inspired by how she faced her odds head-on and overcame. And a special note, because access to schools was somewhat limited this year, each student was tasked with creating their own B-roll footage. So everything you see that is not their interview was hand-selected and captured by that honoree. This enabled them to take even more ownership of their story. Now here's Mara.
My name is Mara Nizami, and I go to Wisdom High School. A few days ago, I didn't know how to speak. I was afraid of having a voice myself, but then after that, I was a voice for others. 4 years ago, I migrated from Afghanistan. It was my birthday when we landed in America. One of the most difficult challenges for me was overcoming the English barrier. I came to the US with 0 English. After a few months being in class, not being able to speak, but being able to listen to the teachers and listen to the other students. And I used to read books a lot, low level, like for kids. But then slowly, I started reading hard books, but I was afraid. If I say a word, if a word comes out of my mouth, people are gonna make fun of me. Are they gonna laugh at me? The turning point was the day of debate in my English class. We had to debate over a book. The opposite team, they presented their case really well, but in our team, everyone were really quiet. In my mind, I said, this is the moment, now or never. I actually closed my eyes when I stood up and spoke. And that moment, I shocked myself and I shocked everyone else. Everyone was really surprised about that. How, she was like a robot a few days ago and now she's speaking. And that's the turning point in my life. After that, I was really engaged in class. I was introduced to our school UIL math and journalism team. And the next year, I became our school journalist. I started writing essays. And this year, I'm gonna graduate as a top 10% of our class. I would like to describe myself as a youth rights advocate. Being an advocator, it's something that's in my blood. So I started to get involved in PAIR, which is a nonprofit organization for refugee kids, where they help them learn about American culture and also learn about school, help them with homeworks. And I was a member for a year. And then after that, I was told to volunteer and help the other African girls who were newcomers and had difficulty with language, to kind of like speak to them, encourage them, and help them. I'm a teenager and I really like young people, young generation. There are really a lot of misconceptions about them. And writing is something that when I write, I feel that's me. I have written a book about the misconception about young people. It's not yet published, but I'm about to finish. I think that will bring us all together. I feel like no matter what, young or old, we all are living in this community. We need to live together rather than having misconception about one another and fighting one another. My name is Morton and I beat the odds.
Please welcome 2021 Beat the Odds honoree, Mara Nizami.
I want to thank the donors for making this scholarship possible and the scholarship committee for choosing me for this award. I know this process was competitive because out of more than 100 applications, they only interviewed 10 students. Additionally, out of 10 possible candidates who were interviewed, I feel so humbled to have been chosen. I appreciate all my mentors, teachers, and advisors who have helped me along the way. And I'm so excited to use this scholarship to continue focusing on my vision and dream for the future. Without it, affording college wouldn't have been possible. So thank you for believing in me and my future.
Hard work indeed. Thank you, Mara. Can you imagine silencing a voice like Mara's? Who would even attempt such a thing? Hi, I'm Shahadat Fartosi, 2017 Beat the Odds honoree. The voices and perspective of young Texans are not only valid, they are also crucial to our state's future. By next year, 1 in 3 eligible Texas voters will be age 30 or younger, and the majority of those young Texans are people of color. CDF-Texas is committed to uplifting these voices and making sure young Texans are leading the way on decisions affecting their future and the future of this state. Over the past year, the Youth Civic Education and Engagement team registered more than 50 Texans to vote during our COVID-safe H-Town vote events and gave virtual presentations in high school classrooms about the importance of voting. The team also held virtual events like our 2 nights advocacy one-on-one training and panels on youth voting, environmental justice, and healthcare to connecting youth advocates with policy experts and extraordinary youth leaders working on these issues. Over the next year, there is more work to be done to make sure every young Texas has their voice heard. Texas just gained 2 new seats in Congress due to huge growth among young people of color. Now, we need to make sure those voices aren't silenced through partisan gerrymandering. The Texas Education Agency is about to rewrite the social studies essential knowledge and standard. We need to hear from students and teachers on how we can strengthen civic education in the classroom to raise up the next generation of civic leaders. And CDF-Texas continues to work with the amazing network of Beat the Odds alumni to provide new opportunities for us to advocate for the issues we care about. And now, I would like to introduce our next young advocate, Mr. Dat Van.
My name is Dat Van, and I go to Alief Early College High School. So I was born in Vietnam. I had a really big family. I was living with my mom and her friend before my dad sponsored us and we moved to Minnesota. I was happy because I didn't really know what was going on. My mom, she was working in a grocery store, and sometimes I would go with her. I would often just stay in her back room. I just sat there and just spent my time doing nothing. Living with my dad, he kind of had a facade. I didn't really see his bad side until he ripped off that mask and I actually saw it. My mom, she always saw it. She was bearing the brunt of it. He told my mom that he would deport us if she didn't divorce him and hand over custody of me to him. She said no, obviously. The one thing she can't give up is me. And it's true the other way around too. She's the one person I can't give up. My mom and I, we ran away from that environment. We were homeless for a bit. So after being in that shelter for 8 months, my mom, she was taught a little bit English, how to survive in America, some job skills and stuff. I went to a daycare of sorts. We got our green cards thanks to the lawyers and the workers there. And we moved to Texas because we had some family here. When we moved here, it was the night of July 4th. We saw all these fireworks, and it was kind of like a celebration of moving on from that. So when I left Minnesota and came to Texas, I got to experience things that I've never experienced before. That bubble that I lived in Minnesota, being by myself, not being aware of anything, that was popped almost immediately. My teachers, they were so kind to me, and I knew that I was in a good place. I was never really a healthy kid, and because of that, I got sick. My diet wasn't the best, so I got an infection in my stomach. The infection I had, it was an early indicator of gastric cancer. They spotted it before it developed into cancer. I was treated by the physicians, and they were role models. They were inspirational. I wanted to know why I was throwing up. Why was I sick? And at the time, as a third grader, they explained it to me, but really, what does a third grader know? I didn't really understand. And that kind of sparked my curiosity in wanting to know more, in wanting to know why. Now I want to be a physician too because of them. I want to be a person that knows the answers, that can explain to someone what's going on. They've broken down that bubble for me. I can reach out of it and do things I want to do. Beating the odds to me means not letting your circumstances take hold of you. You are not your circumstances, and I'm not my past anymore. I am who I am now, and I am who I will be in the future. My name is Dat Van, and I beat the odds.
Please welcome 2021 Beat the Odds honoree, Dat Van.
Hello, my name is Dat Van, and I am extremely honored, blessed, elated, every possible synonym of happy to be a 2021 Beat the Odds honoree and a new addition to the CDF family. I extend my warmest thanks and genuine appreciation to my scholarship donors, the Children's Defense Fund, and everyone at the CDF-Texas Beat the Odds program that helped make this scholarship and my dreams possible. I would also like to thank my mom, teachers, mentors, and friends that constantly push me to do my best and to reach for my dreams. Truly, I'm honored to be able to share my story with you all, as it is a testament not only to myself, but to everyone, every kid out there, that they too can beat the odds. Just 1, 5, or 10 years ago, I never would have imagined that I would be where I am today. Of course, nobody can predict the future, but I have learned many lessons about it through my perils. Today, I will share 2. The first being, there is no darkness without light, and that coldness is just the absence of heat. Being in the lowest, coldest, and darkest times of life means that tomorrow, the week after, or the month after could be the warmest and brightest times of your life. However, the true struggle lies in getting to that warm and bright place of life, because we cannot predict the future. I did not get to where I am today by myself. I am fortunate enough to tell you my story because many have given me a helping hand and opened doors when I could not. I could have been one of the many millions of stories in this country that go unheard or end abruptly. Stories about children who have or are currently facing domestic abuse, homelessness, poverty, or do not have access to things many people take for granted, like healthy food and a proper education. All it takes is one person to change the story, one hand to lift someone out of darkness. That is the second lesson. Be that person, be that hand. All it takes is one. Nobody can predict the future, but we can help change the present and carve a path for the future. So, once again, I would like to say thank you to everyone that has helped me be where I am today, because you have given me the ability to reach the warm and bright part of life and carve a path for myself.
Well said, Dat. Thank you. My name is Cindy, and I work with the health policy team. CDF-Texas believes all Texans should have access to affordable health care coverage, and we can achieve that through smart policy and advocacy. Dat, for example, received life-saving treatment at a price his single mom could afford, thanks to the state's Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP. And now all of us stand to benefit from this amazing young leader. But nearly 1 million children in Texas don't have health coverage today. In fact, our state has the highest uninsured rate for children and adults in the country. It's also home to the largest number of low-wage workers who make too little to buy insurance on the marketplace, but too much to enroll in Medicaid. At least 3 in 4 of these Texans are people of color. In other words, if we want to achieve racial equity in our state's health system, we must expand healthcare coverage. That's what our health team fights for year-round. We organize, research, and advocate to make it easier for eligible kids to enroll in healthcare programs, tear down red tape that jeopardizes their enrollment, and above all, expand our state Medicaid program so that Texans, regardless of income, have access to affordable healthcare coverage. And we do this not just through data and research, but by partnering with uninsured Texans who understand this problem firsthand and helping them get their stories in front of state leaders. This afternoon, we're thrilled to focus on the stories of our Beat the Odds honorees. I'm proud to introduce our next honoree, Godasi Dokobwayo.
My name is Godasi Dokobwayo. I was born in Tanzania. I lived with my mom and my dad. It was in this refugee camp called Kanembwa in Tanzania. The houses, they were like the size of a living room. So y'all basically went in the house at night when it was like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. Other than that, you're doing work outside or you're gathering food, getting water. As for clothing, we basically had like 5 pairs of clothes and you would spend go a week with the same clothing. Sometimes there wouldn't be enough food. We would go to sleep hungry. Water was limited. You had times to go fetch water, and if you were late, you just wouldn't get water. We lived there for about a year and a half. It was not good. Before we were born, my mom and my dad, they were survivors. They went through the genocide that happened in Rwanda. We came to the States when I was 4 and a half. I was nervous. My family was excited. When we got here, it was very different. A lot of people are surprised to know, you speak English very well, but you also still speak your language very fluently. I started in kindergarten, first grade, so it was basically I'm starting with the other kids, so, I'm learning my basics, the ABCs, and I kind of picked it up. My dad, he knows a little bit of English from his workplace and all that other stuff. My mom, not so much. I have to be a translator, help them fill out paperwork. I was helping my dad fill out our food stamp stuff. And the schools, oh my gosh. The kids used to pick on us because it was we didn't have money for anything. And there was this one specific student. They started talking about my sister or my family, skin color and stuff. They just kept egging it on and I fought them. I got removed from the school basically, and they kind of took me to juvenile. But when I was in there, I was really reflecting this is where my life is headed. That made me wake up. That's not who I want to be. When I got to this school, when I came here, I didn't know what a GPA was. I didn't know any of that. My GPA was bad. I'm pretty sure it was in the ones. But I came from a 1-something to a 3.7. I'm just striving to do it better because now I know I can be somebody, The first place that I volunteered was the Beacon Homeless Shelter. And at first I was nervous because, I went by myself. My friends, they be busy and stuff, so I didn't want to kind of force them to come with me. So I went by myself and I really liked it. Being hungry, feeling lost and stuff like that. I know what that feels like. And even though I can't build them a house, it's providing them with food, clean clothes, that's one less thing they gotta worry about. Another place that I volunteered was at the 2020 Chevron Marathon. I was with the medical crew, basically helping out the racers who were injured or couldn't go on anymore. That really sparked something in me, I know I wanna do this. My name is Godasi Dokobwayo, and I beat the odds.
Please welcome 2021 Beat the Odds honoree, Godasi and
I would like to start off by saying thank you all so much for providing me with this opportunity of a lifetime. I am very honored to have been chosen amongst hundreds of others that were well qualified. My whole life, I've been exposed to nothing but poverty. At one point in my life, I accepted the fact that my future was going to be the same as many other kids in my neighborhood who finish high school and don't get the chance to advance further with their lives due to lack of opportunity and money. This fall, I'll be the first generation college student in my family. Although my parents have my best interests at heart and support me in many ways, I know that their efforts to help me pay for my college expenses won't be enough. I must rely on grants and scholarship so that I will not harm my family's ability to take care of themselves. Winning this scholarship gave me motivation to keep working hard. It provided me with a great support system that will be with me throughout my college career and beyond. With money not being an issue, I will have time to focus on more important things such as my studies in college. I would also like to thank my teacher, Ms. Orang. She is one of the ones who encouraged me to apply for this scholarship. In my whole high school years, she is by far the best teacher that I've ever had. She goes above and beyond daily to make sure that I'm on track. She believes in me more than some of my own relatives. She instilled confidence in me to believe that I will grow to be more than just another statistic. But once in my life, it feels like the odds are in my favor. I would like to thank everyone who has been with me thus far in my journey.
Thank you, Gadasi. I admire your strength and I cannot wait to see where your college journey takes you. My senior year of high school was like being on a cliff. With every new argument and lie, I inched closer and closer to the edge. In one of my last attempts to help myself, I applied for Beat the Odds, and I took a risk by opening up about the pain my family inflicted on me. CDF embraced me, scars and all, without hesitation. Like they do with many other families and students, CDF met me where I was, and they invited me and many others to heal so we could create space for our future. That's why the CDF Health Outreach and Enrollment teams go out in the field to meet children and families where they are. When COVID hit, the outreach teams had to get creative about how they connected with their communities. They adapted quickly, making videos about the pandemic, electron benefit transfer, and posting them to social media. They provided curbside application assistance in church parking lots, and they took call after call from families needing support. CDF-Texas outreach teams gave valuable assistance to local school districts in spreading the word about this one-time benefit that met the nutritional needs of children who previously had free school lunches. Their work made it possible for these students to be well fed while receiving virtual instruction. It's not an exaggeration to say this team is literally saving lives. Each year, they connect hundreds of individuals with invaluable medications and enable patients to receive an organ transplant or cancer treatments they could not otherwise afford. Whether it's a dire situation or a checkup, CDF-Texas Health Outreach is vital work. By now, you might be wondering how you can jump in and support this work and these remarkable students. At the end of our program, you have an opportunity to provide something tangible by sponsoring a bundle of college essentials. These thoughtfully selected items will start them out on their college experience equipped with everything they need. So please stay tuned to see how you can help. But now it's time to meet our next honoree, Leslie Alvaran.
My name is Leslie Alvaran and I go to Dayton High School. My mom, she was pregnant when she came here to the US. We didn't have any money. You know, my mom, she could have done so many things in Mexico. She could have studied, she could have lived her own life. But, she chose to give me an opportunity to be better, to study, to have a career. I would say that the struggles were mostly financially, and I didn't know that I had epilepsy yet. Well, back then we called it blinking. It started after we moved here to Dayton. My mom would tell me, Leslie, why are you blinking? And I would I don't know. And she was like, okay, Leslie, well, I'm gonna take you to the doctor to see what's happening. The answer was always the same. She's either tired, stressed about school, They told me I had like really big eyes, so like that probably caused like a lot of dryness. So I went 7 years without being diagnosed, living day after day like that. There were times where I was at school, I would go throughout my day blinking without knowing it, and once I would get home, my mom would be like, "Leslie, have you been like this all day?" And I'd be like, "Yes, yeah, Mom, I've been blinking the entire day. I thought I was just tired." I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to learn how to drive. That's what scared me the most, not being able to be independent. When I finally got a diagnosis, it was after a concert I had gone to. I wake up and I have a blinking spell. It's kind of like coming in and like out, like memories, because I don't really remember much after having the seizure. I remember they put me in the ambulance and my mom was like, "Leslie, everything's going to be okay." When I wake up, I'm in the hospital. They sent me to Texas Children's to go see a neurologist, and she told me, "Okay, Leslie, you had this, and this. These are all clear signs that you have epilepsy." Now I know like what's going on, right? You know, I have a way to like get help. I've been going to neurologists every 6 months. So I had to catch up on my schoolwork at the hospital without knowing in reality what I was doing. And there were times where I had to stay after school to finish my schoolwork. Even after all the EEGs and all the tests were ran, my motivation for staying focused on school was, if any other student can, so can I. After like different neurologists, different like prescriptions, I'm finally under control. I haven't had a seizure in 2 or 3 years. Beating the odds for me is having the opportunity that I didn't have when I was a child. So many people are getting scholarships for, playing sports, playing in the band, and those were kind of like the things that I missed out on while I was in the hospital. I feel like I have an equal opportunity with Beat the Odds. My name is Leslie Albarran, and I beat the odds.
Please welcome 2021 Beat the Odds honoree, Leslie Albarran.
Hello and good afternoon. I would like to start off by thanking Beat the Odds and the Children's Defense Fund, as well as everyone I have worked with as an honoree. You have all brought true meaning to the word and have made it an honor to be recognized. And of course, I would like to thank my parents for all their love and support throughout the years. Thank you once again for hearing my voice after so many years of it going unnoticed.
Thank you, Leslie. Your voice is so important, and we cannot wait to hear from it for years to come. Good afternoon. I'm Shannon Guillot-Wright, and I serve on the Advisory Council for CDF-Texas. As a health policy researcher, I focus on structural violence with an emphasis on occupational health equity. But I've always believed research should be paired with advocacy. As an Advisory Council member, I get to watch the CDF-Texas staff move research from data to advocacy to changing policies and practices. CDF-Texas is on the ground working to fix the crises of today, and in the Capitol working to correct these problems for tomorrow. This is the standard formula for their work. Find holes in the system and step in to fill the gap. That's what the CDF-Texas team did in 2015 when they began protecting immigrant children and families. CDF-Texas was the only child advocacy organization in Texas to speak out when there was a movement to get family detention facilities licensed to operate as child care centers. Putting a crib in a cell does not make incarcerating immigrant families acceptable. Time after time, CDF-Texas refused to look away when the rights of immigrants, especially children, were violated, as they were when the exceptionally harsh public charge rule threatened their well-being. Between December 2017 and February 2019, when the public charge rule took effect, Texas saw 237,000 children drop from its Medicaid and CHIP rolls. The simultaneous 3% rise in the state's uninsured rate shows that children were losing healthcare coverage. CDF-Texas did the research to prove the link between the drop in health coverage and the anti-immigrant policies that were causing mixed status families to remove their citizen children from public health programs. They published their findings in a fact-based report that was covered on the front page in the New York Times. From visiting and centering the communities they serve, to testifying at the legislature on these and other key issues, to leading coalitions at the forefront of effective change, the people of CDF-Texas make an identifiable difference in our state, and I'm honored to serve and support their work. And now we've come to our final honoree, Asia Donahue.
My name is Asia Donahue, and I go to Climb Forest High School. I lived with my grandparents all the way up until I was the age of 6. It was hard for my mom to really take care of us because my dad they were always working. My parents had moved to a bigger house where they could fit all of my siblings in there. And my grandma, who was sick at the time, was also moving in with my dad. So as soon as I moved in with them, 7 years old, I was out working on a newspaper delivery route, 7 days a week, no off days. Christmas, Thanksgiving, you're still out delivering newspapers in the morning, 2 o'clock to about 5 o'clock in the morning. 7 years old, my sister was 9, going on 10. We're 2 years and 9 months apart. My dad had been doing it for about over 20 years. It only kept going is because he had children doing it for him. And we weren't getting paid. Our getting paid was, you have a house to live in, you have a roof over your head. My dad presented it as him teaching us lessons about the real world. Everybody's already tired. You still gotta be respectful. You still have to be cordial. My brothers, they had gotten tired at this point and they had moved into their own apartment. Of course, I missed my brothers when they left, but I understood, I really do understand why they left. It was a very toxic household. With my dad from the age of 8 to up until I left when I was 15, almost 16 years of age, my dad was sexually abusing me. And at first it was night after night after night until I ended up getting pregnant. And at the time, we're still slipping newspapers. I'm tired. I'm taking days out of school to go to Planned Parenthood, get ultrasounds. And that's when my dad was like, you're gonna have an abortion. Don't care what you think. But at the same time, I just didn't understand that it was okay to tell someone. I ended up telling my brother, Arthur, what had happened to me. And he was just like, okay. He was like, pack a backpack. It's time to go. I feel as though we were all endangered because he didn't go to jail right away. And they still took that risk. But after being in therapy, just every week, seeing this lady, talking to her, it did help. It does help. It helped a lot. This happiness, this persona of just full of joy is not fake. I'm really happy. I enjoy where I'm at. And it's because I've just had this, it's because of my support system. Like I said, I wouldn't be here without my brother and my sister-in-law, but of course I wouldn't be here without God. When I grow up, I want to be an environmental lawyer. It does make me happy to know that there is a way I can still practice law and do something that is productive. My name is Asia Donahue, and I beat the odds.
Please welcome 2021 Beat the Odds honoree, Asia Donahue.
Hello, I'm Asia Donahue, and I would like to thank all the Children Defense Fund donors for making the Beat the Odds Scholarship possible. I am grateful for this opportunity given to lessen the burden of starting my journey in college on my family and I. This scholarship is allowing me to solely focus on my studies at Xavier University of Louisiana while I pursue a major in chemistry. I would also like to thank my brother and sister-in-law, who do not like to be put on the spot, but do very much deserve it, for bringing me this far and raising me as their own child. I love you guys as well as the rest of my siblings.
And now we want to celebrate our honorees as we give them their well-deserved Beat the Odds Award. Dat Van, who'll be going to the University of Texas at Austin. Mara Nizami, she'll be at the University of Houston. Godase Endebugayo, Austin College. Leslie Albaran, University of Houston downtown. And Asia Donahue, going to the Xavier University in Louisiana. I am thrilled to have our CDF community with us from a safe distance to applaud your amazing accomplishments. Students, look behind you.
Good job, congratulations.
Fantastic.
Your CDF family is physically, albeit virtually, behind you today. And this is a very important picture because we commit to being behind you for years to come. We will be cheering you on and encouraging you just as we are right now. Congratulations on this prestigious award and welcome to the CDF family.
Way to go! Way to go! Yeah. Outstanding! Great!
I am so pleased to present our keynote speaker, Children's Defense Fund President and CEO, the Reverend Dr. Starsky Wilson, joining us from Washington, D.C. Dr. Wilson is a pastor, a philanthropist, and an activist pursuing God's vision of a community marked by justice, peace, and love. He is board chair for the National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy and vice chair of the Forum for Theological Exploration. Dr. Wilson earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Xavier University of Louisiana, future home of honoree Asia Donahue, Master of Divinity from Eden Theological Seminary, and the Doctor of Ministry from Duke University. For his public theology, he was awarded Doctor of Public Service and Doctor of Divinity degrees honoris causa by St. Louis University and Eden Theological Seminary. A member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Inc., and Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity, Dr. Wilson is married to Latoya Smith Wilson, a dentist for St. Louis Children's Hospital. They are raising 4 children. We are so excited to have Dr. Wilson's leadership as we pursue our vision of a nation where marginalized children flourish, leaders prioritize their well-being, and communities wield the power to ensure they thrive. Dr. Wilson.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. It is absolutely my pleasure to be with you, to be virtually home in the state of Texas, celebrating the Beat the Odds celebration for Children's Defense Fund Texas. I bring you greetings on behalf of the board of directors, the more than 130 team members across the country who are working to advance the Children's Defense Fund mission and to make child well-being a reality for the more than 74 million children and youth across the United States of America. I am most pleased today to be celebrating with the number of advocates, activists, those who are seeking to advance and support the work of the Children's Defense Fund Texas office led by Patrick Brissett and a remarkable team there. And really appreciative of those who have taken the time to sponsor, to support this work financially, including HEB, our leading sponsor for tonight. So thank you all for the time that you have put in and for the opportunity to invest in the remarkable young people who are our honorees tonight. The final word that I'll share by way of greeting is my own appreciation of the remarkable resilience that has been shown by our honorees tonight. I was graced to be able to watch their videos, to be able to see and experience the remarkable grace against the face of challenges that they have shown, and look forward to the remarkable success for all of them, not just the one that's going to be going to my alma mater. All those things being said, I want to ground myself a little bit in the trajectory of the time that we have been celebrating and honoring beating the odds in the state of Texas. And I want to do that by way of telling you a little bit of my own story. It just so happens that 22 years ago, when this celebration began to ground itself in Texas, I was 22 years old. At the time, I was coming forth from the aforementioned Xavier University of Louisiana, having graduated and gotten that degree in political science. I didn't want to go too far away from home, so I could drive from Dallas, Texas to New Orleans, Louisiana, in my beat up little 1982 Nissan Maxima that was 2 tones of brown, but also a discolored gray going right across the front of the hood. This car that I so proudly purchased with $500 in the summer after I graduated from high school with resources that I cobbled together from my job and behind my mother's back. I did not know how to drive an automatic, did not know how to drive a standard, figured it out stripping the gears on my way home from the auto shop where I bought the car from to surprise my mother by pulling it up into the driveway. That's a part of what I was bringing home with me there in the Oak Cliff parts, the southwest side of Dallas, Texas. I noted to Patrick, I was glad to be here because I had a sense that North Texas may be underrepresented in the gathering. And so I wanted to make sure to represent for Dallas and Fort Worth and that part of Texas as well. But I also, as I was coming forth 22 years ago, driving back home from New Orleans to be with my family in Dallas, Texas, to celebrate with my graduation robe in the back of the car because I wanted to put it on for my church's celebration of graduates on the next day. As I was coming back, I was also remembering the long drives that we would take from Dallas to East Texas. My mother was from Gilmer. She grew up in Gilmer and Big Sandy, other places around where the CDF-Texas has offices. And we would go there every summer for our family reunions. We didn't do family reunions in hotels and we didn't have long agendas. We did them out in a big opening under a canopy near a park in Gilmer where all the family got together. I told y'all I was glad to be home. And 22 years ago, when this celebration was grounding to advance and send young people forth into education as a mark of celebration of their resilience, I was coming forth from higher education into the world. I was reflecting upon the family traditions and those grounded Texas roots that made it possible for me to advance. I was also wrestling with the reality of the challenges that I experienced in middle school and high school when community violence by gun took my brother and my uncle away from me. In that moment, I was thinking about all the times my mother invested additional time, not only in me, but in my friends around me as the leader of Vacation Bible School and Christian education, and later the Baptist Training Union at Beth Eden Baptist Church, where I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was reflecting on all of those things that made my first 22 years possible and the second 22 years probably successful. You might ask some people about how successful that has been. I'm not exactly sure, and I may be biased. Part of what I know is that the 22 years since I graduated and the 22 years that we've been hosting this celebration, some things have changed. Some of them have changed for the better and some have not. I know that in the 90s, through that 22-year mark a bit ago, 1999, some things have shifted as it relates to the capacity for young people to thrive, to make successful transitions from childhood into adulthood. One of the unique things that is noted is that today, more than 6 in 10 jobs require some education beyond a high school diploma. Yet the cost of higher education has skyrocketed, roughly doubling since the mid-1990s, and federal and state investments haven't matched these increased costs. In the 1970s, when I was born, Pell Grants covered roughly 70 to 80% of the cost of a 4-year degree at a public institution. Today, that percentage has been cut in more than half to roughly 30%. Similarly, states have dramatically decreased investments in higher education, leaving students like our honorees tonight and their families with impossible bills and debt. And although college enrollment rates have increased in general and across races and ethnicities, racial disparities remain due to inequitable supports and opportunities, as well as continued barriers to college education. 37% of Black young adults, 36% of Hispanic young adults were enrolled in college in 2018, compared to 59% of Asian young adults and 42% of white young adults. Because of wealth disparities, inequitable school funding, and lack of student supports, even larger disparities along the lines of race exist after college enrollment, as Black students are less likely to graduate like I did 22 years ago and are more likely to be left with student loan debt than their white peers. And 22 years later, I'm just finishing paying it off. A lot has changed in 22 years. The question becomes, how much have we? I know I should come out of all of this national stuff and get back to some things in Texas. Let's talk about Texas. You know what's changed in my life? I grew up downtown Dallas. I didn't live in downtown Dallas, but I grew up in downtown Dallas. In downtown Dallas, there are 4 towers that we used to call the Bell Towers. My mom, having graduated from South Oak Cliff High School, only her high school diploma, but an active worker, member of the Communication Workers Association of America, began to work at a company that was then called Southwestern Bell. In 1984, it was Southwestern Bell. By the time I got to high school in 1995, we were calling it SBC. Just after I graduated and went to Xavier, or graduated from Xavier, was coming back, we were calling it SBC Global Network. In 2001, we started calling it SBC Southwestern Bell. I guess they wanted to reach back into the past to move forward into the future. And by 2005, we were calling it AT&T. All these things have changed and transformed over time. 22 years later, how much have we? The circumstances for children have remarkably changed in 22 years. As a matter of fact, one of the more significant things that has happened is the complexion and composition of the humanity that we call America's children. In 2020, US Census Bureau projections reflect that it was the first year in American history that the majority of America's children were children of color. Black and brown children who are disproportionately likely to be poor. 71% of children who are poor in America are Black or brown. Black and brown children are America's children. Black and brown children who experience the kind of negative racial disparities that I've spoken of in college education, the kinds of challenges that you have heard about and hear about in the stories of our Beat the Odds honorees. When we hear this, this is no longer an exception. This is the rule. And because this is the rule, in as much as SBC, Southwestern Bell, AT&T has changed, so must we. Our efforts at supporting young people in going to college must transform from individual efforts to support a student to transformative advocacy to make sure that Texas and Missouri and Mississippi and Louisiana invest in need-based scholarship versus merit-based scholarship, because we know of the racialized disparity between the two. It means we must advance and support things like the College for All Act in the US Congress, making college accessible for all, because we recognize that even if 12 years of education from K through 12 in public education is enough, or was enough 22 years ago, it's not enough for global competitiveness today. And so we must transform and we must change. And inasmuch is it is appropriate for us to continue to advance the remarkable and deep mission of the Children's Defense Fund. We must also have vision for the future. It is my absolute honor in this moment to sit, well, I'm standing, to stand in this place, to stand with each and every one of you on behalf of and in solidarity with not only the 74 million children of America, but also the additional 30 million under the age of 25, because they are those who will usher in the first glimpses and maybe even the glaring reality of a multiracial democracy in America. They are the ones who will sustainably make child well-being possible by engaging in civic engagement, by engaging in civic leadership, by doing so starting even now. But that means we've got to change. I can't raise my 16-year-old the way I was raised. Lord knows I've tried. I've got to do some things different. And we must do some things differently. And so, in as much as we seek to advance this vision of a nation where marginalized children flourish, where leaders prioritize their well-being, and where communities wield the power to ensure that they thrive, we will need to invest deeply in the civic education of students and youth. We will need to expose the glaring gaps in that investment in the way that CDF-Texas has in recent reports. And we will need to mobilize and activate young people even as much as we invest in their scholarship. We need their participation because, as I've been saying since the Ferguson uprising, they are not young, they're movement age. There's been no major transformation on the history of the face of the globe. It has not been led by people largely under the age of 30. Those who we celebrate tonight, we celebrate not just for their resilience in the past, but we believe the next 22 years of their lives will be the transformation of the face of America. It will lead to child well-being and racial justice, if and only if we are willing to engage in the transformation and evolution that I learned from my mom. And I could have even learned from SBC or Southwestern Bell, or was it AT&T? The next for us is now. As Dr. King said in his Beyond Vietnam speech from Riverside Church, we're now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. What will we do now? I look forward to facing that future with each and every one of you, with those Beat the Odds honorees who will change the odds for tomorrow, and engaging and investing in the change along the way. God's blessings, God's peace to each and every one of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson, for those inspiring remarks. We all look forward to working with you to ensure the future vision of CDF. You may remember earlier that Amber mentioned a great opportunity where you can contribute to the success of these students as they go off to college. She mentioned something about bundles, but you're going to learn a lot more about that from Clarissa. Clarissa, off to you.
Thank you, Patrick. And Dr. Wilson, thank you for that important reminder of why we do what we do. Hi, everyone. I'm Clarissa Webb, Youth Programs Coordinator at CDF-Texas, and I promised you we'd keep this whole program to an hour or less, so let me get straight to the point. You can help. If CDF's fight for justice and the ability for children to flourish resonates with you, you can lend a hand in multiple ways. The first is to support these exceptional young people you've gotten to know as they start college. You can sponsor a bundle of college essentials for a Beat the Odds honoree. You might be surprised how much this could mean to a student. Take a look at how it helped 2019 Beat the Odds honoree Aline Irafasha.
Hi, my name is Aline. I'm a 2019 Beat the Odds scholar and currently a sophomore at Wellesley College. I'm very grateful for the bundles that Beat the Odds provided me when I was getting ready for college because first, those things cost a lot of money that I personally didn't have. And second, as a first-gen student, I just had no idea what I needed to buy for college. I literally had to ask Google, what do I need for college? So having Beat the Odds helped me out with that. It was incredibly helpful. From school supplies to bedding for my dorm to shower shoes. It was just a lot of things that I needed and I didn't even know I needed. And I'm almost a junior and I'm still using those things. So thank you so much, Beat the Odds.
Thanks for sharing, Aline. And just FYI, everybody, bundle sales will continue until August 1st, so we can be sure to send off all 5 students with all their dorm, travel, cleaning, and academic supplies. Today is the kickoff for bundle sponsorships. But how incredible would it be to meet our goal on day 1? Secondly, you can give a donation of any amount to bolster the work CDF does year-round. And don't forget to connect with us on social media and read our blog to see what you can do every day to help advocate for our children across the state of Texas. We're dropping a link in the chat right now where you can donate or sponsor a bundle. Also, search CDF-Texas on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook and follow our advocacy adventures, paying special attention to those action alerts. And remember, when we all pitch in and help, we bring hope. Thank you so much for being part of today.
Thank you, Clarissa. As I close us out, I want to give a special thank you to our scholars who shared their inspiring stories. I also want to thank our presenters who shared with you a little bit more about what CDF does for children in Texas. And lastly, thank you for joining us and for the support that makes all of our work possible. Have a great rest of the day.